episode 3 of the Rough Cut. Welcome in on this game 2 of the NBA Finals Friday. Forgot what day it was. It should be an interesting matchup tonight. Today in this episode, we're going to get to the NBA Finals preview of Game 2, what happened in Game 1, what might be different in Game 2, Stanley Cup Finals, Canes tie it up last night in overtime. Talk about that series, see which way it's shifting going to Vegas. We're going to talk about some movies I saw this week, the NFL Myles Garrett Trade, maybe some TV shows and music. We'll see what we have time for. All right, let's get into it. So tonight is Game 2 of the NBA Finals. Game 1 went actually not completely the way I expected, but the result was what I expected. My predictions were Spurs in 6 and Stanley Cup Finals. I had Carolina Hurricane. I don't know why I said it like that. I had the Hurricanes in 7, and so far neither of those series after Game 1 were looking great. Last night, Canes tie it up, looking a little better, but still Vegas looks like a very good team that should bounce back. To the NBA Finals, though, I weirdly had the Spurs losing the first 2 games of the series and then winning 4 straight. Not really sure how realistic that is or why I put myself in a position to predict it exactly like that. After Game 1, it does not look completely like it'll go that way. It should be a pretty even series. That does go 6 or 7, but the Knicks look very good, and they played Wemby in a way no other team really has. They have the bodies that can match up with him with size. Cat had maybe the best game I've ever seen him have as a pro, offensively and defensively, really. He had Wemby in front of him the whole time, and he was getting by Wemby on the offensive end multiple times. It'll be interesting to see what Mitch Robinson does with the matchups tonight. Who's guarding Cat? Where they'll put Wemby? Will Dylan Harper close out? Because De'Aaron Fox had a rough Game 1 after a very, very good Game 7 where he came up clutch with a lot of timely buckets. This game, he did not hit those shots. And we know De'Aaron is a clutch player, and he's still battling that high ankle sprain. But I don't know. The way Dylan Harper has played and continued to probably be the Spurs' best player in his very first finals game at 20 years old, I don't know. It'd be nice to see him have the reins in the last couple minutes of a game. I'm pretty sure he can handle it. He seems to be able to handle everything else. And Game 1 did show a little bit of the immaturity of the coaching staff and the roster of the Spurs, just that they haven't really been there before. We hadn't seen much of that throughout the playoffs, but the finals did show a little bit of that. The Knicks are a very good team who have Jalen Brunson, and we need to talk about him because 30 points after a couple injuries that were very scary and seemed like the series might be just over after Game 1 because he banged his knee up, then he hurt his ankle, he went to the locker room multiple times. Thankfully, he is not hurt because clearly he is still dominant offensively. And the things he does when it is time, when he starts making a couple of those baskets and the whole Knicks crowd and even the opposing crowd kind of knows what's about to happen, as Mike Breen calls it, the Brunson barrage, it seems crazy that he can just keep doing this in the finals against a defensive team like the Spurs. But the buckets he hits down the stretch, the timeliness of them, the way he just takes over a game is very, very impressive, especially for a guard of his stature. But it's clear that Jalen Brunson is a top 10, I don't know, if he wins a title, top 5 player in the league. Is that crazy to say? Maybe recency bias is a little frugal at times, but I don't know. If he wins a title for the Knicks as a guard like him, the way he's playing, you might have to start having different conversations about Jalen Brunson, and I think we already might need to based on how he's played so far. Now, based on my prediction of the games, the Spurs lose tonight. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they won tonight and Wemby had a big bounce back game. But I'm going to stick with what I predicted at the original thought process I had. And I think the Knicks take Game 2 tonight. Maybe I'll get really crazy with my prediction and say Josh Hart hits a buzzer beater to win Game 2, corner 3. If that is right, this video better get 1,000+ views because that would be an insane prediction if the Knicks win Game 2 on a Josh Hart. Jalen Brunson's drives, kicks it out to Hart. Corner 3 at the buzzer. Wow. 98-93. That doesn't even make sense. 98-95. I don't know. I'm getting pretty bold with my predictions right now. I'm not sure why I'm getting a deeper hole for myself. Again, this is not really an edited version. This is live. I don't really have many people watching. And if you are, you get to see my fuck-ups along the way. And then you get to say, wow, I was there at the very beginning. So to all of you, thank you. Now, continuing, I yeah, we'll say the Knicks win tonight, just based on that. Again, would not be surprised if Spurs bounce back. I think Wemby will have a much better game. I am just more interested to see the coaching battle of this game, truthfully. Mike Brown definitely has more experience, and it showed a little more in game one. But I would love to see what Robinson does tonight with the matchups, who is matched up with who the closing lineup is. He has some big decisions to make, and you got to think this is his first time in this situation as well. And he, yeah, has a big decisions to make, and we will see what he does. I'm very intrigued, though. I'll say, yeah, Knicks win it tonight, but I think it will be another good game, and overall, I think this series will be very, very good. Moving on to the Stanley Cup Finals, the Hurricanes tie it up last night. Seth Jarvis, finally the Canes power play hits. They score 2 late power play goals. Crazy third period after it looked like Vegas might take a 2-0 lead and just dominate the series. The Canes bounce back. A couple questionable calls along the way, but hey, it's the Stanley Cup Finals and they battled. Torts had a questionable challenge at one point. It honestly could have been a goal. He said he doesn't regret challenging it. I don't think it was honestly that bad of a challenge, but it did cost them the game ultimately, I guess. Vegas did tie it up, so I never like to use the ref excuses when it goes to extra time. Like, you had your chances to win it, even if you get a bad call here or there. And the Hurricanes ended up taking it. Thank goodness, because I thought the series would be just a Vegas 4 or 5, and that would have not been very entertaining. So I'm glad Hurricanes tied it up. They also kind of dominated that game, weirdly, even though Vegas dominated on the score sheet for a little bit. The shot attempts were insanely in the favor of Carolina early on, but I'm glad they got it done. Jordan Staal continues to be impressive in the big moments. I think I saw a stat early on in the 2009 Stanley Cup Finals he was in with Pittsburgh. He scored 2 goals the entire finals, and I think already he has 2 goals in these finals in 2 games. So big-time plays from the captain. And I'm going to stick with my prediction of Carolina in 7. I'm not going to switch my prediction. Vegas is a little intimidating. It will be interesting to see what happens in Vegas. I could see Vegas taking both games at home and kind of dominating a little bit of the series. But Carolina has not lost on the road the entire playoffs. I don't think they will. I wouldn't be surprised if they take both in Vegas. Truthfully, I think it'll be a split. And I could see Carolina winning Game 3, Vegas winning Game 4, and then we see what happens after that. It turns out it should be a very entertaining series. To all the people that said this series might be boring, maybe including me, I actually never thought it would be boring. I knew these teams were very good. I just didn't really love the aesthetic of it, just the logos. I don't really like either team, but truthfully, it has been a very entertaining series so far, and I hope we get more of that along the way. Moving on to a little NFL news. Obviously, there was the big trade of Myles Garrett to the Rams. Jared Verse going to the Browns with a first, second, third, all in different years. Rams gave up a lot, but truthfully, I think it's one of those scenarios where it is a win-win for both sides. The Browns did not need Myles Garrett. They're clearly not trying to win this year, and he is too good to be on a team that bad. He's just kind of wasted talent. So many of his sacks came when they were losing in games, when you don't know if the opposition is even going to throw it anymore or if they're just going to run it more. And he still had, 23 sacks last year. So even going to the Rams, where they're going to be leading a lot of the time, where other teams are going to have to throw, and he's just going to be able to pin his ears back and go after the quarterback. It'll be very interesting to see what his numbers are this year. Weirdly, I don't know if he'll hit that sack record again, just because that is a crazy number to get. But I think he will be more dominant this year. And the Browns got a great player in Jared Verse. Jared Verse is a very good young player, and the Rams giving him up is pretty bold. I mean, they truthfully love Myles Garrett, and I mean, why not? He's already a first ballot Hall of Famer. Jared Verse, though, is a very good young player, and they got 3 more picks. I get why the Rams did it. I get why the Browns did it. I think it's a good deal for both sides. There's more potential for it to go poorly for the Rams. I mean, really the only way, I guess, would be injuries. Knock on wood that doesn't happen, because I do have Myles Garrett in my IDP Dynasty League, so I really love the addition of him to the Rams. He could get big numbers for me this year. But clearly, yeah, truthfully, if he stays healthy, it is a win-win for both sides. The Rams are very much in win-now mode, and that division just keeps on getting better and better. So I like it for both sides, and ultimately, it'd be hard to not pick the Rams right now to win it all, but obviously the Seahawks are still in that division. There's a lot of good up-and-coming teams in the NFC and AFC, so again, should be a good season. I like it from both sides, though. The Rams continue to say, F them picks, and so far it has worked, so you can't really blame them for taking shots. They do a lot of things that your franchise wish they would do. So you got to respect the aggressiveness and the will to win every year. A lot of teams wish they could be that way. So that's it for kind of sports this week. TV shows. I haven't really talked much TV. I kind of go through phases of watching TV. I've been really into movies this year, and I watched this show though called 4 Seasons. It's on Netflix. It's not the best show of all time, but the cast is just a fun hang. You go through 4 seasons, you kind of get to go on little vacation trips. It's one of those shows that you kind of just like being there. You don't really care what the mistakes are, what the flaws are of the show. You're like, I'm just hanging with people in a cool setting, and some of it's pretty good. So I would recommend watching that show if you kind of just want something to put on before you go to bed or just chill. It's a good show for that. If you like Tina Fey, Will Forte, Steve Carell was in the first season. You have that Colton Domingo. And talking about Colton Domingo, he was in the Michael Jackson movie that I just watched. I was a little late to it. I wanted to go opening night. Clearly, I did not do that. Maybe a month late to the game. But I really, really enjoyed that movie. I'm a big fan of biopics. And I do wish they would have spent more time on certain things. Obviously, Michael is such an accomplished artist and his career was so large that they can't spend so much details on every little thing. But I mean, they're already making a second movie. You could have split it into thirds if you really wanted to. Maybe the first one wouldn't have been the most entertaining if you just kind of went more into the Jackson 5 and his childhood. Still think you could have done that. A second movie that honestly could have just been Thriller alone. I wanted to see way more of the whole Thriller album process because that is one of the greatest albums of all time. I mean, the whole album is pretty much #1 hits, besides maybe Lady in My Life, but even that is not even that bad of a song. I just would have loved to spend a little more time on that. But great movie overall. The acting, Jafar Jackson was an amazing choice. I mean, you couldn't have really chose anyone else better to play that part. He absolutely killed that. And overall, good movie, good story. Just wish there would have been a little more into each aspect of life. I'm interested to see where the second one will go, where in his career it will spend the most time on. But I am a sucker for biopics, and this one with an artist I really enjoy hit me in a good way. I also watched Django Unchained last night. I'd never seen that movie, and obviously it's a very highly acclaimed movie. People are big Tarantino fans. This is maybe the 3rd or 4th Tarantino movie I've seen. He's not my favorite. I do like his movies. I get why people hold him to such a high regard and why his movies are very highly regarded, but he's not my favorite style. I think he's obviously clearly kind of a weird dude. A lot of actors still like to work with him, so I try to take that into account, that maybe he's not like a bad person, but the things he writes himself into and the dialogue he uses in certain scenarios, kind of interesting. And Django, it makes more sense than some of the other places he's used that dialogue, but I gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. People might come at me and say, that's crazy because that movie's no less than a 5. And there were things I did like. Obviously, the acting was insane. Might be my favorite Samuel L. Jackson acting performance I've ever seen. I forgot he was even him, honestly. And he just kind of the perfect asshole. And he played it very, very well. Jamie Foxx was amazing. Leo, I've heard of his performance in that. But yeah, my favorite performance was Samuel L. for sure. And I did like some of the zoom-in camera work. That was something unique that I hadn't really seen before. I plan to check out a little more Tarantino movies, but this one, not my favorite. Out of the 3 or 4 I've seen, I think Pulp probably is my favorite. Still not one of my most loved movies, but out of his, that's my favorite so far. I think next I'll probably watch Inglourious Bastards, which I've heard mixed reviews about. A lot of good things, some people not their favorite, but I want to check it out. And then maybe a music rec for this week. I've been going through a lot of kind of alternative music lately, a lot of Dominic Fike, Kevin Abstract, but the album I'm going to recommend is 2’s album, which I should have wrote down, and off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of the name of it. I think it's What Do You Do When You're Asleep, or something like that. What Do You Dream About? Something along those lines. Just look up 2’s. It's really his only album, and the deluxe version is very good too. It's just a not everyone's favorite style, but I think it's almost a perfect album. It's such a unique sound and such a new style, and I still remember the first time and where I was when I listened to it, and I've come back to it a little more. It's just great with the windows down, listening to Tizo. So you might hate it, you might like it, but it's good summer music, and I hope everyone enjoys Game 2 of the NBA Finals tonight. I'll be back when I'm back to talk about all the things that have happened in the following week. This has been episode 3. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever the things people do on YouTube. And I will see you on the flippity flip.